Hello, my name is Xander Coleman, and I am the director of Tokyo International Players' staged reading of Constellations.
And I'm Joan Chen, I guess we're saying full names now, and I'm the stage manager for Constellation, the stage reading. So I have some questions for you today, and just in general, because we've been doing this rehearsal process for about a month at this point, and there are so many things I don't understand still as your stage manager. So if from your perspective, what is Constellations about? Like, what's some of the themes? Like, what attracted you to select Constellations for the reading?
Constellations is about life and choice and destiny. It asks a lot of questions that it doesn't feel the need to answer. It just likes to ask. And it explores a lot of different possibilities of how little circumstances can change events drastically, and also how some events, no matter our choices, seem to be maybe inevitable.
No, I think I really like the idea of like it presented problems without an answer, like without even attempting to answer it, right? Like there's so little we know about the world we live in and how it works. And I think from my perspective, I think Constellation does that, like presents that in a very interesting way. I find it very amusing. So just want to like ask you that question again, but like, why did you pick Constellation? Like what part of Constellation that intrigued you personally that you want to put it on as like your very first show stage reading that you're directing?
So this play was recommended to me by the director of Tokyo International, this play was recommended to me by the president of Tokyo International Players. He'd read it and enjoyed it, and he thought, based on the sort of show I'd said I wanted to direct, he thought that this would be a good choice for me. And he was right. Basically, I was very interested in directing a very people-driven show, a show that explores the relationship between characters, and that is Constellations to a T. It's all about exploring the relationship between these two characters, and that sort of exploration was of a lot of interest to me as a director.
And what do you think about it now? Like what, like there were obviously once, like as soon as you opened that script, there were like parts that you're like, this is difficult. Like there are so many like challenges about presenting Constellations to an audience. Like what was some things that like jumped out to you, be like, this is hard, and like you had to spend time to really think about?
So on my first read of Constellations, I like had a little notepad and I was taking notes of things that I thought would be challenging. And at the time, of course, I didn't know what sort of cast I would have. So I was thinking like, what sort of people do we even have in Tokyo to take on these roles? I was thinking about the challenges specifically of doing this as a staged reading. So every time a stage direction came up, I was thinking, oh no, what are we going to do about this? Yeah, for me, the challenges were mostly about, as a stage reading, how do we do this?
Like, well, now you have made the stage directions my problem. Now I'm looking at them, being like, how am I gonna read those things? But like, because especially like with Natural Shocks, it was like a one-person show, so you don't get that awkwardness of having two people not actually be able to interact naturally, right? But now with Constellations, they have their music stands, and there are certain things that it creates that space in between. But do you think the actors are doing a good job like filling that space with like how they're presenting the reading?
I think the actors are doing a great job adapting to acting in a staged reading. On the first run through, I felt like they often had the impulse to move towards each other or just to move. Because as an actor, you you want to do that. And as a director, I want to let them, but it's a staged reading. So they have to, come back to their music stands and they
Yeah.
don't actually get to ever touch. And it's so interesting to have a show that is about, people connecting and they can't touch except in the stage directions that are read aloud.
I have to say, I still feel like I'm like a third person, like the third wheel of what's happening in the scene. I'm trying really hard not to feel like a third wheel, but it still feels like it. But
You as the stage manager are the third character. The person reading the stage directions is very intentionally the third character in the show. There's some moments that we simply could not do without the stage manager reading those aloud. So I did my best to make you a part of the show throughout, not just popping your head in whenever they need to.
can you imagine that? Me standing behind the
Yes.
curtain and be like, and then.
I mean, we could have done it with a microphone from the back of house, but I wanted to acknowledge that this is a stage reading and the stage readings are part of it, and they are a character of their own, representing all the movement that we would have done had this been a full production.
Yeah. Has this a whole thing been exciting for you? Like, I know we're like in the middle of, COVID, and half of our time is spent like this over Zoom, and then we get so little time to theater, but have you been enjoying this process?
This is all a lot of fun for me. So this is actually my first time directing a full production. I've only directed short scenes before. This is my first time ever directing an entire show, which is very exciting. So when I joined Tokyo International Players, COVID was already happening. So there wasn't really much for me to do. And actually the very first thing I did with Tokyo International Players was participate in a directing workshop. And I'm just really excited that like paid off so quickly, much more quickly than I imagined it would, that I already got this amazing opportunity to direct despite being a total newbie. Yeah, it's all very exciting for me.
So like, I want to ask you, because I was in the directing workshop with you. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember, yes.
Yes, okay, good. I was like, if I tell him this, it's gonna be awkward. Like, is this whole directing experience what you think it is gonna be? Like, were you nervous in the beginning? Like, were you worried about like having to walk into the room and be the director, or like it felt pretty natural?
There are definitely parts of it that make me nervous. So one of those things is that at least one of our actors is a much more experienced director than I am. But honestly, he's been so wonderful to work with and has not tried to be the director, which is a thing that I guess I was afraid of, which didn't turn out to be true at all.
Yeah.
It was the thing that made me nervous. But
No,
actually, I think the time I was most nervous is when Karen, the director from the previous show, came to this rehearsal, and I felt very self-conscious, like, oh no, am I directing well enough? Am I impressing my mentor?
Yeah, no, Karen makes everyone nervous just because like she does everything so well, right? Like, Natural Shocks was great. The whole process was smooth, and like even with me right now, right? Because when I work with Karen, she does bulk of my work too as her stage manager, and now she's not here. I'm like, I need to do better. Like, we need to do better than Karen. Like, and I think we are. Like, in some points we are. Like, Karen, challenge accepted. I don't know.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
So for Natural Shocks, I was, I think, officially billed as an assistant director, but that was basically me shadowing Karen, learning the ropes of how to direct a show for TIP, and that was a super duper helpful experience. And I'm so glad that I was able to like participate in almost all of the rehearsals and get a feel for that before attempting to do it myself. So I'm very grateful to Karen for mentoring me.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, I'm glad you got something out of it. Like, I know like you were so busy during that time too. And then like immediately we had to jump in and plan Constellations. It was like
No
natural
break.
shops over, Constellations now, and everything. It was incredible for me that because I started Constellations with like a blank sheet of paper, right? I knew nothing about what is happening. I was like, I'm just here. I can schedule like rehearsals and I can send out Zoom invites and all that. But you had to go into the first rehearsal and the first reading and be like prepared. I don't even know how you do 2 shows at once. So that was me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Trying to plan in advance is sometimes a futile effort.
Yeah, no, but like you guys were all so prepared. You like by the first rehearsal, like you and Kate and Nicholas all showed up and done your homework, and I'm sitting there and be like, I barely know what this play is about. And just watching you guys discuss all the things, like it's such a complicated play. It was very exciting to watch you guys discuss it. I learned so much about like how like you guys went in and broke things down. And like I have to say, I know this is your interview, but that we're making this my interview too now. I have to say that like when I first read Constellations, it was because of how it's formatted, it was less it didn't really excite me as much because of how it explores this decisions and choices. I'm trying not to spoil anything here. But then after seeing you guys discuss it and connecting the dots for me and watching the physics and maths and all the theories and hypotheses happen in front of my face, that was super exciting. And then hearing the actors actually reading it and making their choices on what happens for each line and for each scene, that was it made Constellation super fun. It was just like you guys took something that I thought was like pretty cool to like, this is like everyone should come see this. This is awesome. Like I kind of want people to read it and then come see it at some point. Like I think it's different, right? Like if you just come see it, the choices that are made would feel natural. Like, oh, those were obviously the right answers. But then if you read it and have your own image of what it should be, and then come see it, they will like, I think they'll be able to see the choices that were made. But I guess also like don't spoil it. So
there will be some people in the audience who are already familiar with Constellations. Constellations is quite a popular, well-known show. So in addition to certain TIP board members who I know are familiar with the show, there might be some other audience members who actually are already familiar with it. Actually, our actors were already familiar with Constellations before they were cast. So maybe some people will be coming to the show with their own ideas about it, which is interesting and challenging.
Yeah, but I think you guys did a really good job of making Constellations your own. Can I say we, because I want to be a part of this? We did a really good job for making Constellation our own. I really enjoy it. I'm gonna let you end because this is supposed to be your interview, not me talking. Like, do you have any messages for anyone? Like any like last minute thoughts, anything for the audience?
Constellations is a brilliantly written show. The script we have to work with is incredible. The actors are incredible and bring so much life and character to the characters. And I'm so grateful to be able to do this show. And I hope that everyone who comes and sees it really enjoys it, because it is a fantastic show.